Shalom, and welcome to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul, your Biblical Hebrew podcast. Shalom and good morning. Today I would like to speak to you about the metaphysical aspect of the binding of Isaac. Usually this time of the year, we read the story of the binding of Isaac, or in Hebrew, Parashat Ha'akedah. When we think about it, or when we read about it, or when we look into books or into paintings, we see a figure of a father and a figure of a little son, a little boy, plastic image of humans. But today I would like to speak to you about the binding of Isaac from another perspective. I would like us to focus in two words in Hebrew and to abstract them in order to penetrate this space in the mind as virgin mind people who seek the truth. The word for a father in Hebrew is Av. And the word for a son in Hebrew is Ben. Father and son are not just like we look into general picture in life, in a structure of a family, but the word father in Hebrew, Av, refers to a cause, and the word son, Ben, refers to the consequence. Now when we think about father and son, let's try to think about those words as cause, father, and effect, the son. Not about people who live in space and time, but about ideas, cause and effect. Now, the cause is asked to sacrifice the effect, or to cut or to separate the connection between cause and effect. Because in linear thinking, scientific thinking, we have this kind of thinking. A caused B. This is a linear thinking. The whole layout or the whole format of binding of Isaac is to suggest a different reality than causal thinking, because we, as living in space and time, cannot perceive what is going beyond our physical dimension. But the binding of Isaac offers another reality, of which we did not speak so far. What does it mean that the cause, the father, cuts the effect, or even intended to cut or decided to cut the effect from the cause, is the willingness of the father, of the cause, to consider such a reality, to consider an open reality which is not known to us. This is why the binding of Isaac is happening in the morning or at dawn, and usually according to the Hebrew prayer tradition, the morning prayer includes every day the binding of Isaac. Not just as people tend to translate it as a dramatic sacrifice of father and his son. This is a bit childish thinking, plastic thinking. And why people read this every morning? To remind themselves, if they understand this great metaphorical idea, that the reality of causal thinking does not really exist, only in our limited square of time and space. And this is why the binding of Isaac happened at dawn, in the first break of light from the darkness, to emphasize that any light of reason that comes to the world that illuminates our life does not come from causal thinking. Another aspect that I would like to speak about is the knife as a metaphorical tool. The knife is made out of metal. Metal is cold. The human mind has a scalpel that can cut and make distinctions, like in physical life. Person takes a tool to cut, to separate, to divide into little parts, into little segment. Let's say a person eats in his plate, so he has a knife, he has a fork to locate the matter, and then he has a knife to cut it into pieces, like is happening in our plate. Also, and first and foremost, this process is happening in our mind. There is a fork in our mind that catch something, and there's a knife, a distinctive scalpel that tries and cut the thing that we're trying to catch into little fragments that we could catch the idea. This is how books are being written in this format, because before we see a book printed in our hand, the author who writes the book, this is how he works. We were mentioning that a knife is made out of metal. Metal is a cold element, like the human brain. It's cold. When we look into our lives, if we want to sharpen a knife, we will sharpen the knife against a stone, usually traditionally. In Hebrew, we call this special stone of which we sharpen the knife on is even mashchezet. Even mashchezet. Even is a stone. Even in Hebrew is a composition of two words, Av, father, and Ben, son. Or Av, as we learned today, is a cause, and son is effect. So what is happening in our mind? We are sharpening the knife, the cold metal scalpel, on a stone which is composed of cause and effect. Now Abraham is required to take the knife and to lift this knife, this scalpel, off the mind and cut the connection between cause and effect. And at this moment, when he is willing to do so, a new life is coming from there, not from the Father and the Son, the linear connection, cause and effect, but from there, a third component. We have a triangle. A ram is coming, caught in the thicket of the bushes, when the thicket of the bushes is not bush on the field, but the thicket of the bushes of the forest of our mind. Suddenly, when we are willing to cut, to sacrifice, to put aside the causal thinking, like we think that we know, suddenly a new reality pops out from there, which we could not conceive one single moment before it happened. So, dear friends, I hope that this conversation could find a space in your heart, in your mind. I would like to hear from you how it is being received, and wish you Shana Tova. Thank you for listening to Bible Stories as Blueprints of the Soul, your Biblical Hebrew podcast. For more information, articles, videos, and interactive classes, please visit hebrew.learnoutlive.com or join our YouTube channel. Shalom v'chol tov.